Hi, I'm Celeste Rossette in Wichita, Kansas with Save Century 2, and you're listening to U.S. Modernist Radio.
Mama don't allow no architecture around here. Mama don't allow no architecture around here. Oh, I don't care what Mama don't allow, gonna draw mine modern anyhow. Mama don't allow no architecture around here.
Welcome to U.S. Modernist Radio, where we talk and laugh with people who enjoy, own, create, dream about, preserve, love, and hate modernist architecture, the most exciting and controversial buildings in the world. I'm Tom Guild. Nowhere in the world celebrates modernism better than Modernism Week in Palm Springs, California. And U.S. Modernist Radio was there again this year, interviewing nearly all of Modernism Week's keynote speakers, plus extra special guest at the U.S. Modernist compound, poolside at the hip Hotel Skylark. Modernism Week is no weekend tabletop show at the Elks Lodge. No. It takes a huge village, a rather attractive modernist village with perfect weather most of the time, to create an event that sells over 120,000 tickets across 11 days in February. There are hundreds of volunteers, and the week after it closes down, they start planning for the next year. George Smart talks to some of the people who make it happen. Modernism Week board members Maureen Erbe, Ann Rowe, and Alan Hess. Plus, Janice Lyle, the director of the Sunnylands complex, one of Modernism Week's partners and most popular tours. And I know we heard from Trevor O'Donnell on a previous show, but let me just tell you that taking one of his tours during Mod Week is a real treat. He seems to know everybody in town, and some of them even invite him in to bring his guests into their homes. Trevor is also a consummate storyteller. And man, when it comes to rich people and celebrities and the houses they have built, Trevor does not disappoint.
It really was a fabulous week. If you're into mid-century modern and you like art galleries, shopping, martinis, documentaries, amazing premieres, parties, and brilliantly curated house tours, art and architecture, and really, who doesn't like all those things, particularly all in one place?
Yeah.
Then you're going to love coming to Modernism Week in Palm Springs. One of the highlights for me was that on every Thursday, there's a downtown street fair. They closed the main drag there right in front of the Hyatt Hotel and turn it into booths of food and local art. And it's so fun. It's free. And it's pretty much every Thursday unless there's a monsoon coming through, which does happen from time to time. Want to go with us in February 2021 and stay at the U.S. Modernist compound? Email me at george@usmodernist.org. U.S. Modernist Radio is underwritten by Nichiha.com/USModernist and by Modernist realtor Angela Rowe.
In her continuing made-up life, Modernist realtor Angela Rowe bought the duplex next to stately Wayne Manor in Gotham City. You may have never noticed it in the TV show. No one wanted to live next to the reclusive billionaire and his creepy butler Alfred and those loud, mysterious late-night noises from some souped-up car roaring down the road. Living on one side of the duplex and advertising for a tenant in the other, one day Angela's doorbell rang. It was the Penguin, he said.
What? Now look, Angela. The guy in that stately manor and his creepy butler are my arch enemies, and I need a cheap place close by to build an exploding shark. When can I move in? Walk.
With that, Angela became the Penguin's landlord, and recognizing her design skills, he hired her to do the build. It took a year because an exploding shark takes a lot longer than you think. You have to build a pool for it, you have to transport it, and you have to get your victim in the water. That's a real pain. As Angela designed the fins, built the shark cages, and installed the explosives, she realized the Penguin's evil plan had to be stopped. Of course, we all know what happened. The Penguin's shark finally deployed and, strangely, swam away from the Cape Crusader. With specialized design training, Angela Rowe advises buyers and sellers of modernist houses on everything from appropriate renovation to secretly giving Alfred a can of shark repellent. Angela Rowe is your special agent. Reach her at angelaroll.com. That's ROEHL or 919-995-0550.
Thank you, Tom. Anyone who's tried to put together a conference knows it's a lot of work. Even a conference of a few hundred people requires months of planning, hotels, flights, catering, meeting rooms, publicity, audiovisual, and coordination with all the staff and volunteers who will keep things running smoothly for the participants. This is not an activity for the slack. Now imagine organizing a happening that covers 200 square miles, sells upward of 120,000 individual event tickets across 11 days, and requires hundreds of volunteers. And you have Modernism Week. Today I talk with some of the people who make it happen. Modernism Week board members Maureen Erbe, Ann Rowe, and Alan Hess, plus Janice Lyle, the director of the Sunnylands complex, one of Modernism Week's key partners and its most popular tours.
George's conversations start with Maureen Erbe poolside at the U.S. Modernist compound in Palm Springs.
Maureen, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
You've never done a podcast before.
I've not.
Well, I'm so glad that you came and did this one with us.
I'm glad you invited me. Thank you.
Just sitting right here in the beautiful sun by the pool.
And I've not been to the Skylark before. I've driven by many times, but Palm Springs is full of magical places, either behind hedges or fences. And
a little oasis here.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And quiet. We can do the recording here, except when the helicopters go over. We have to stop occasionally and wait.
Well, they're doing their good deed.
You're on the board of Modernism Week.
Yes, I am.
And how long has that been going on?
You know, Modernism Week has been going on 15 years. I've been on the board, believe it or not, I can't tell you exactly, 6 to 7.
6 to 7 years, so about midway through.
Yeah, midway through.
And now it has become this huge thing, bigger and bigger every year.
Yes, every year our numbers grow, and I'm sure it will continue to.
When it started, you were what, like 1,000 people came to the original one? Do you know?
No, when I started, believe it or not, it already had pretty good momentum.
Okay.
Probably 30,000 people came. I think we raised about $35 million, generated $35 million for the city of Palm Springs and Coachella Valley, and probably had about 200 events.
Okay.
So it was still,
That's
it
a lot.
had grown in the first 7 years quite substantially.
And now what are the figures?
Now I have my little cheat sheet here because
Excellent.
they grow so much. I didn't want to misrepresent. We are up to 155,000 international attendees. We have over 375 events, and we generate about 57 million in economic impact on Palm Springs and Coachella Valley. About 1.5 million of that, we are a nonprofit. So about 1.5 million of that goes to preservation and scholarships for students interested in architecture and design.
Modernism Week does such a wide array of programming. What are the kinds of things that people experience when they come here for Modernism Week?
Well, we have home tours, lectures, films, fashion, food, cocktail parties, of course, and just everything about architecture and design. And it grows every year, and we're always introducing new things and making it better each year.
People come from all over the world.
They do. They come from all over the world. And at the end, in March, after our February event, we have a meeting, and we go over all the stats, and we have a very detailed rundown of all the countries that were represented and how many people attended from each place.
You've got, what, I think 50 or 70 from Australia this year, somewhere in there?
Yes, Australia, Britain, but everywhere. It's all over the world.
But Australia, that's a big group to come that far away.
It is a big group, yes.
Yeah. And of course, California is well represented because people are here locally. And you have people that are even just here in Palm Springs that jump into this and want to participate every year.
Yes, we do have a large group of attendees that are local, which is really great.
When I talked last year with Chris Mobley, who is in charge of building the camp, which is the headquarters for Modernism Week downtown, it's this giant tent with another giant tent out to the side, and then a couple of administrative tents, and what I love to call the toilet village, which is back there where everyone can go pee. It's a huge major production. I mean, you're really constructing an entertainment complex for 2 weeks every year.
Yes, and it is a major, major endeavor. And you will see Chris Mobley there sweeping the floor. He's super hands-on, so he'll be there early in the morning till late at night as it's being constructed, and then we'll be there 24/7 when the event is on as well.
And camp performs a variety of functions. What are some of the things that people can do or get access to there?
There are lectures. There are a food venue. Cheeky's has a food and cocktail venue. A lot of the sponsors. Ferguson has a cooking kitchen. There's a bookstore and all sorts of wonderful shopping. And then all of the sponsors have booths. The bus tours take off from there. So it really is the hub of Modernism Week.
And the bus tours you have are not just like hop on a little bus, but these are special buses.
Oh, they're special buses and they're very special tours. If people ask me what to do when they come to Modernism Week, out of the 375 plus events, I will always say your must do first thing is a bus tour. It's about 2.5 hours long. It's in a London double-decker type bus, and it cruises through all of Palm Springs. It's a mix of history of architecture, celebrity history, history of the valley. And if you have spent much time in Palm Springs, as you go through the residential neighborhoods, you know it is just, there are abundant ficus hedges that you can't see over. And when you take the bus, you get to look over the hedges into all of the properties. And sometimes you'll even see somebody skinny dipping in their pool.
Well, we have that to look forward to. And these tours go on for all the 11 days of Modernism Week. I mean,
yes, I believe from like 8 o'clock in the morning till 5. It's all day long. They always sell out. And then we have a new bus tour that or not new, but it's been about 7 years, Illuminated Modern. So that's a different sort of bus tour, but that goes through the city at dusk, and it's beautiful. A lot of the significant buildings have been lighted with beautiful color and then words that tell who the architect was and when the building was built. So that's very special too.
Yeah, those are called Gobo Lights, I just learned.
Yes, they are gobos. That's a term that I learned too when we first started doing it.
Because here at the U.S. Modernist compound, we got a Gobo light for our building. So when people go on that illuminated tour, they can see our logo out in front.
That's great.
They're really cool devices.
Yeah, they are.
And they can broadcast color and black and white up into any sort of building surface. It's very focused. It's really an enormously wonderful way to highlight the history of these buildings throughout town.
It is. And it also is a huge technical endeavor. You know, it's a big deal to figure out the lighting. There's a whole bunch of run-throughs before the actual buses go through to get it just right. So, yeah, it's another really great thing that Modernism Week does.
Well, this has been great, Maureen. Thank you for coming by and sharing the overview for us. And we'll be talking a lot about this over the next few months.
Great. Thank you, George.
George Smart was chatting with Modernism Week board member Maureen Erbe. Later, George sat down with another board member, Ann Rowe.
You're on the board of directors for Modernism Week.
I am.
And how long have you been doing that?
A couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah. I was their big stalker. I came to town in 2009, and I'm at Sunnylands. That's my day job. And I saw what these rascals were doing. And having run nonprofits myself, I knew how hard it was what they were doing.
Oh, yes.
And so I was just marveled at watching this thing grow and watching how smooth Chris and Lisa were and William and Mark and how welcoming they were. And I just know how hard that is. And so as a customer, and I didn't really know many people in town. I was new. I didn't know one single human being here before I joined at Sunnylands. And so I was just blown away by them. So after the festivals, I would do what I learned on the East Coast, which was I would send them a little handwritten card. Like,
right.
You guys are blowing my mind.
Yeah.
You are doing something that the world is watching. And the expansive impact of what you're doing is unbelievable, and you do it without ruffling a feather. And I just wanted to say I'm a fan, and I love what you're doing, and I cannot believe how well you're doing it and how they've managed the growth of it so well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just a fanatic, and we became friendly over time, and I was delighted to be asked to serve on the board.
Well, it's really, I call it the Super Bowl of modernism, really.
Yes.
I mean, there are lots of places that have modernism days or modernism weekends or modernism conferences, but this is the deal here. This is really the bomb.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't get any better than this.
No, it doesn't. It absolutely doesn't. And in fact, we all laugh around town that you have to take your vitamins as you head into this week for sure. And of course, it's a misnomer. It's 11 days now. But you have to take your vitamins. And sometimes we won't see each other at all, because we're all running and we've all curated our own experiences and we're dashing here and there. And everybody has their own peculiar take on how they want to experience the festival.
Right.
So you can go 11 days and just meet people from Germany and Sweden and all these new folks and really not see any of your compadres. And because it's that big, which is astounding. It really is.
Well, I love how, when I go to the parties and then I see the little clusters of board members with their white name tags like you have on right now. And they're posing for pictures of different things.
Yes.
And you're all clustered behind a sofa, a really elegant sofa, and getting those group shots. Those are wonderful.
Yeah, it's really quite fun. It's quite a celebration.
Now, in your day job at Sunnylands,
Yes.
this is a retreat, really, which was designed by Quincy Jones and others, by the Annenbergs, to be a place where international heads of state and other big muckety-mucks could come together in a secure environment and talk about great big issues with a capital B.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
I know that Obama came a couple times, right?
Oh, he did, yes.
Yeah.
He had 3 important meetings at Sunnylands.
3 important meetings.
Yes.
Has Trump done anything here yet?
He has not. He has
Okay.
not. Our charter is to make sure that the White House knows that our setting is available to the president,
Yeah.
Congress, et cetera, but they have not taken us up on that availability yet.
Now, do other countries come like on their own? Does like Finland call and say we're having a top environmental meeting and we want to have it at Sunnylands, or is that allowed?
Yes, people do pursue us. They know about the setting. They know about the history. And interestingly, the Annenbergs didn't actually build it as a retreat. They built it as their home. This was their exuberant modernist home. And what we think happened was they saw that the property was taking on this amazing history. I mean,
Yeah.
the social history of who walked through that door over time is incredible. And they knew it. They were both historians. And so they started chronicling everything. So I have menus from 1966 on, where everyone sat, what everyone ate, what everyone drank. They saved every bit of ephemera that you usually roll up and throw out after a party.
Right.
They saved it because they saw that the house was taking on some characteristics of a historic site. And so as they went on in the years, they realized that they happened to be sort of at the nexus of the power players. And so the power players were their friends. But they saw that the sort of intersections that happened on the property between their powerful friends, the setting made for some really good conversations. So that happened organically, and then they began to actually more consciously do that. And then they began to start talking about the property moving in that direction beyond their lives. So they watched it sort of occur naturally, and then they wanted us to bottle it and keep doing it. So yes, so people do reach out to us knowing that the property is used to help, make peace in the world. That was really our charter. And we used to giggle when we first said it, but we're serious about it. We really want people to come and convene who can make a difference. And so, yes, people come to us and they tell us about the group that they're working with and the partnerships. And sometimes those conversations do lead to important meetings.
So we're all young and vibrant and healthy. But where is Modernism Week going to be in 20 years from now? What is that legacy going to be, do you think?
It's a great question. And as somebody who sort of studied I think I'm on my 6th of my 9 cat lives. And one of my lives, I did organization development, which is basically just the psychology of a company and the health of a company. And you go in and you sort of see what's going on and how you can make things sort of better. And
I wouldn't know anything about that.
Okay. But
I only did it for 25 years.
Oh, yes. Oh, great. So you know all about that. Okay. So it's a personal passion of mine, too.
We can talk about that, yes.
Oh, yes. So anyway, right. So that's my filter I use when I'm looking at this amazing institution festival. And right, where is it going to be? It's a really great question. I mean, it's something that I think about a lot. How big should it be? How big should it get? How big can it get? And is that right? I don't know. So I think the board has been prescient in really managing growth very well, really monitoring we're up above, 350, 400 distinct events this festival.
Yes.
And so we do monitor attendance very closely. I think there should be a natural ceiling to how many people you can get into this theme park of a town and how many programs you can have. But we haven't really, I don't think we've reached the natural ceiling yet, but we're observant. We're observant and we're aware that there could be a point where it's a good size or it takes another direction altogether.
Well, as you know, as an OD person, the law of unintended consequences kicks in
Yes.
in different levels, right?
Absolutely.
Whole systems theory, Peter Senge kind of stuff.
Right.
So it isn't so much like, are you at your capacity or not, but what kind of phenomena are going to start happening at different levels.
Right.
It's like these musicians who go from performing in their garage to performing in the arenas. Their music is exactly the same, but the unexpected consequences on their lives are profound.
Exactly. Yeah, and the ripple effect in town into everybody's lives with traffic, etc. So yes, but I'm happy to say that we're very conscious of that. So we do once in a while ourselves retreat, pause, look at where we are, examine where we are, self-reflect, have somebody from the outside come in and take our temperature, make sure that we're on track. And I think that shows. I think that we're listening to feedback and are responsive and nimble and can make things work better if they need to be adjusted.
I'm always impressed with how there's so much enthusiasm here among all the volunteers and how the people that are doing the planning over the rest of the year are generally quite good about returning emails and returning phone calls and being responsive to people. That level of attentiveness is something that you don't see in a lot of nonprofits. I have called many big institutions to try to spend $500 or $5,000 or $10,000 worth with them on some kind of tour and can't get a call back for 3 weeks. So your group here is on it as far as the responsiveness, which is great.
Right. I think we are all experiencing, at least I am, in America, customer service is sometimes absent at companies, just as you're saying. And I think we're aware of that too. And I agree with you. Before I knew these folks, I would send them an email or I'd have a dumb question or whatever. And they were always attentive, always responsive. So yes, customer service, I think, has been part of the fueling of the success of Modernism Week for sure.
As you look at the lineup for this year, what are some of the most exciting things for you?
Well, our keynote speaker, Daniel Lipskind, I mean, that was phenomenal. Did you catch it?
I didn't, but I interviewed him for the podcast.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Well, I don't use this word often, but he is a genius in that, my definition, in that he looks at things from a different perspective, I think, than your average cat, for sure. He was referencing music. He was referencing all kinds of other subject matters in terms of buildings. He shared with us in the presentation some of his drawings, which were extraordinary. He was just an extraordinary person. I think it was very interesting to some, especially some of the female architects I know, when he talked very casually about having not gone through the normal channels of getting his license. That's something that you hear from time to time, and it's, of course, been true with many famous architects, but that's still something that is a very interesting topic for many. So I was glad that he actually brought that up because it provokes conversation, and there has been conversation about that.
It's virtually impossible to do now with the way that the educational and corporate structure is. It's kind of like in the 1920s, you could be a doctor and not have gone to medical school, but that's kind of gone away.
It has sort of gone away. Yeah. Although, ironically, you won't believe it, when I was sitting in my car coming here this morning, NPR was talking about nurse practitioners and how can we have these folks start treating patients without the sort of supervision of a doctor. So it's happening. Yeah,
they're doing that in a lot of states.
Yeah.
Though. But they've got training. I mean, they've got,
they went to school.
Yeah.
For sure.
I just can't open up my Wikipedia and start treating patients.
Although we like to.
That would be fabulous.
Yes.
Modernism Week, in terms of the numbers, I always hear sort of different sets of numbers, so I wanted to clarify. I think last year it was 120,000 people attended, but that's tickets, isn't it, and not actual people?
Yes, I believe it is individual events sold per ticket.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if we sort of work backwards and figure people by X number per ticket,
right,
I'm getting somewhere like 20,000 people, 25,000 people, roughly in that ballpark, which is still, it's a very manageable number of people. When you compare this to, say, the Hollywood Film Festival, Palm Springs Film Festival, which comes here, and of course, all the giant concert weekends and weeks that comes through here, you guys are very manageable.
Yes, we are. And I'm not sure about the actual human bodies in town number, because I think on average people buy, gosh, I'll be corrected later, but I want to say it's between 2 and 4 tickets, something like that. So, so maybe 40,000.
Maybe it's more than 40,000 people.
That's my guess. But don't quote me. Of course, I'm on a podcast, but I'm not
You'll
quite
not
sure.
be quoted. You'll be recorded, but not quoted.
Exactly. Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure of that number, but I do know that it gets increasingly hard to find a hotel. And so actually the calendar of the town has been rearranged, because when the Tour de Palm Springs bike ride used to collide with President Obama's visits to the valley, which collided with Modernism Week, people were staying in Beaumont and Banning and further afield.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's a long ways off.
Yes. And so the town reacted really well, and I think all the players agreed that it would behoove everyone to sort of reorganize the main calendar in town. So that's been great.
For the Modernism Week board, what's your big dream? Like, who's the person that you really want to get here that you haven't had come yet? Like, who's the Mick Jagger of architecture that you'd love to come to Modernism Week?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. And I think my personal take on that, I mean, we don't have that conversation, frankly.
Yeah.
But my personal interest is when I pick up Architectural Digest, right? There's always one of these influencers in it. And it was recently Kim and Kanye with their very interesting home, or some other celebrity, or there are people that are well known to the public who seem deeply invested in design and architecture.
Brad Pitt.
Diane Keaton.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt. There's a lot of these people who I guess you would call them influencers today.
Mm-hmm.
And so my personal take on it would be very interesting to have one of those folks be a keynote speaker.
Oh, great.
That's just my personal thing, because I just think it would be interesting to hear from these people who have a sort of a blessed life.
There's a truck backing up somewhere. That noise you hear is,
right.
Yes.
Yeah, and they have all the options in the world of what they might be fetishists about, and that they're really, like us, into architecture and design. I'd love to hear from them. I'd love to hear their path and their passion. And, it just feels very editorial, which it is, and they get published. But then on the sort of academic side, where they could come share, and I don't think we've even actually pursued them. This is just in the back of my own mind, that it would be interesting to hear from some of those people who actually have such a great impact because of their editorial record.
Well, perhaps, Diane, if you're listening, Brad, Kim, Kanye, this is an invitation to reach out to Modernism Week and get out here in 2021 or 2022. We'd love to have you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming by and saying hello.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
That was Mod Week board member Ann Rowe with George Smart. And now, a moment of reflection from Nietzsche.
Durability, designed to last for years to come, bringing you peace and tranquility. You feel relaxed, knowing your house can easily achieve any exterior look and any color. Wood, concrete. Your house loves feeling this good, and you love feeling this good. Nietzsche, Nietzsche. Nietzsche, Nietzsche. Say it with me. Nietzsche. Advanced engineering. Nietzsche, Nietzsche. Durability, textures, finishes, and colors. Visit Nietzsche.com/US Modernist. Nietzsche, Nietzsche. Nietzsche. That's N. C H I H
Alan Hess and Janice Lyle are two great friends of U.S. Modernist Radio. Their episode that we aired several years ago is a perennial favorite, and it's just not Modernism Week without either of them. Alan Hess is a world-renowned author on modernism with 22 books and countless appearances on architecture documentaries to his credit. Janice Lyle, the former director of the Palm Springs Museum of Art, is now director of the Sunnylands complex, the former Annenberg estate designed to host international leaders. It's a stunning complex principally designed by modernist architect A. Quincy Jones. Sunnylands is one of Modernism Week's partners and most popular tours. George got to sit down with Alan and Janice together again, poolside, at the U.S. Modernist compound in Palm Springs.
We're here with Janice Lyle and Alan Hess, two of my favorite guests on the show, and they are our rock and roll stars of the podcast because somebody somewhere keeps downloading the show that they did, not together, but on separate interviews from, I think, 3 years ago now, 2017. You guys are our number one downloaded show.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's just like phenomenal. It's like Mick Jagger meets Taylor Swift. I'm not sure which of you is which, but
I think that makes us influencers then.
It does.
Yes.
It does.
Yes,
Yeah.
I like that
on our
idea.
Now, it could be that Alan is just at home pressing the button, you know, but this is consistent every single month. People are still tuning into that show. And I went back and listened to it, and it was a nice little kind of overview of Sunnylands, and we talked about Modernism Week a little bit. But I think maybe it's the name recognition of the two of you that people see those and they go, well, I got a twofer right here. I'm just going to tune into this show. Because they're scanning through all the list of episodes.
Okay, we'll go with that.
We'll go with that explanation?
Sure.
Yeah. How many years have you been to Modernism Week now, Alan?
I don't really know. It's been going for 15 years, and I have been coming since near that, so I would say 12 or 13. I don't remember exactly.
This is 15, right? The big 1-5?
I thought it might be 19.
19?
Isn't 20 next year or something?
The show has been around about 20 years.
Okay. All right.
But the Modernism Week with all
Programming.
the events, programming, has been 15 years.
And how about you, Janice?
Well, I was here for the first Modernism Week show because, of course, I lived in Palm Springs at the time and was involved in the museum. And so it used to be affordable.
Yeah. Well, it's changed a little bit. And now it is all over the place. You can spend from, $10 to $250, $300 for certain things easily.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it does help to plan because you got to get organized and know what you want to attend because a lot of these things sell out.
Yeah, and the secret, of course, is to go on the internet site November 1st when all the ticketing goes live. And I want to let everybody out there know that. You can preview it a couple of days earlier so you know what you want to focus in on. But, that's the inside trick and how to get into the really popular things.
And of course, it's the only time during the entire year that Sunnylands tickets are available more than the month before. And so for people planning to come during Modernism Week, it's their shot at actually securing a ticket when Modernism Week tickets go live.
Oh, that's good to know.
And that's really helpful for people who are coming from Australia and overseas. It's helpful for them to be able to plan that far ahead.
Right.
Alan, you have a new job among the many that you have.
Well, I joined the board of Palm Springs Modernism Week last fall, which is a great honor, of course. It's a great organization, really well run. But the purpose of it, of course, is to educate the public about modernism and to promote its preservation. And that basically is what the rest of my work is all about. So it's nice to be associated with an organization that is bigger than just me with the same purpose.
And you're an author who's been around the block a little bit. How many books have you written about this now?
I've published 20 books.
20 books?
Yeah.
And been in how many documentaries?
You know, I haven't kept track of that. I should. But new ones keep coming out. Of course, the new Albert Frey, the second Albert Frey film was just premiered here a couple of days ago. And I'm in that. And it is a great match to the first Albert Frey one to tell his whole life story and career as well. It's uncovered a lot of new information, new film, 8mm film that Albert Frey himself took almost throughout his entire career. It's incorporated into this. So to see the architect's eye on the screen, especially for somebody like Frey, is just a really invaluable part of that new movie.
I was talking with Jake Gorst, director of the two films, and in the first film, you see these shots of Frey on the ship coming over from Europe. And it's like he's got a film crew with him. He's in his sailor suit, posing by the rail, very avant-garde. And Jake was telling me, as far as he knows, he would just ask passengers to take the camera, and he would pose.
Yeah, there is this one black and white photograph of him in New York Harbor with the Statue of Liberty very carefully framed behind him. And he's kind of looking off into the future, but, it's very carefully planned, but very interesting about the way Frey was thinking about his new life here in the America of Henry Ford and mass production and modern architecture.
That all the photos that he did and the videos and things like that have been unlocked and are now incorporated in this film.
Yes, Jake did find a couple of sources that have not been known or seen for years and used them. Archive work is a difficult thing. Things get spread around to a lot of different places. They aren't all neatly cared for in one place, so you really have to dig. But Jake just made that effort.
And this was the girlfriend of Frey in the last 10 years of his life that had a lot of these, right?
Did you know her, Jean Farrar?
I did know Jean. Yes, she had some of his material at the end of her life. So that was shown for the first time, and she was interviewed in the film as well. So you have a chance to kind of get a sense of Albert as he was in his 90s.
Yeah. And as a person, that's one of the things about the film. I think it really shows how his personality as a human relates to his extraordinary architectural design.
And that kind of combination of the modest human being and the kind of view of what architecture should do when it creates a space around you.
Well, if I'm 70 and I have this super cool house up in the hills and I'm in ill health, I think I would really want to be wandering along the trail and have this beautiful yogini come and take care of me and become my girlfriend. I mean, I have a new fantasy now of my old age that I just beautifully painted.
So that's why you keep coming back to Palm Springs.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
I am wandering the hills. Yes, exactly. What do you think keeps this town, keeps Modernism Week, keeps all of this in people's imagination so much? Because we could make the argument like this was just a time period, this was just houses, this is just like, anything else. But there's something magical in this that draws us back, that draws other people back. What do you think is going on with all that?
Well, for me, it has to do with lifestyle. There's a combination of weather, landscape, lifestyle. I think last night I met some people at your event, and
you can say what it was. Go ahead.
Okay,
yeah.
that was a fundraiser for U.S. Modernist Radio, and they were here for the first time in Palm Springs ever from New York, and they were absolutely taken by the ability to spend time with interesting people. There were just, countless numbers of events that they could go to and connect with in places that were so satisfying visually and in a landscape and with this, I think, what was it, 70 degrees last night or something. Yeah. It was quite beautiful.
Gorgeous sun setting over the mountain. Lights twinkling, martinis clinking. I mean, and Frank Sinatra sounds crooning through the PA system.
And I had a friend who lives part-time here, who's a very distinguished academic in architectural history. And this is his first year at Modernism Week. He went to several of the talks on architectural history. And he said they were the three best talks on architecture he has ever heard in his career. Now, that's saying a lot. I mean, he's gone to a lot of conferences. And frankly, a lot of academic conferences are very dry and a little abstruse.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But the fun of the parties goes over into the talks as well.
Yes, it does. It translates into, I think, everyone who is an expert in their area. They're standing up. They're talking about something that maybe you never heard of before, and they're doing it in a very direct and personal way so that you can be as excited about it as they are.
Yeah, so the average person can key into that just as much as a PhD.
Yeah, when I started this crazy thing, what's been referred to as a 13-year seizure for me, I was the only person I knew who liked modernist architecture. And I would drive around sometimes unconsciously and look for it, or somebody would tell me about this weird house out in the woods, and I would drive out to it, or a half-eaten dome that had been, somewhat constructed and never finished all the way. But I didn't know what this meant. I didn't have any connection to the creators of this or the movement or the materials or the history. I just knew that it spoke to me. And when this seizure began 13 years ago, I started putting together the pieces. And evidently there's no treatment for this, because here I am, doing all this stuff in Palm Springs with you guys and others, and we keep growing it every year. So I assume will I die of modernism?
If you do, you will have a very handsomely designed gravestone.
Oh, awesome.
Richard Neutra, the great Viennese Los Angeles architect, who has distinguished examples here in Palm Springs, designed at least 2 cemeteries that I know of. So your future is assured.
Wow.
George.
I had not thought about that.
Yeah.
A modernist headstone. I got to interview Daniel Lipskind when he was here. The interview didn't work out here, and it got moved, and we were in sort of the maintenance tent in the back of Modernism Week, which is where they, shuffle the boxes together. And they were very nice. They created a little space for us. And I decided, instead of doing my usual banter, I just took a deep dive, and we started talking about grief and the architecture of grief, and how these groups that are building monuments and shrines and things like that take so long to do it, because people have to get through the process of grief on their own, both if they are individuals who have lost somebody, or if they're just community members who know people who've lost somebody. And that was a really fascinating conversation.
Did you have a chance to hear his talk?
I did not. I had to miss that.
It was an extraordinary presentation.
Yeah.
He is quite a thinker. And so that really comes across. It's all about how he's considering what people want or need, and how he as an architect can help them get those things.
In a public way, because these are public monuments, museums, etc., and dealing with some of the most serious subjects of the 20th and 21st century.
Very serious. He's from Poland. And, of course, there's Auschwitz there, and he's been an advisor to Auschwitz for a number of different projects. And I've been there to visit. And when you go to Auschwitz, you expect to be confronted by a lot of things because you've read about it or seen it on TV. But what you don't get from anything is the scale of the place. It's like an airport. I mean, it is enormous. Buildings after buildings after buildings, almost as far as the eye can see. Of this complex connected by the rail line that brought everybody in. And, that kind of scale is something that factors in a lot to the architecture of grief. With the Vietnam Wall in Washington, D.C., that was a totally different scale than what it had existed before to express sorrow. And, of course, it connected with most people. A few folks had to have those brass soldiers over by the side. But this was a new way of scale for that. And his other projects have always been very thoughtful about this kind of scale.
Well, and also is interesting during his talk was definitely very lively and even optimistic in his tone, which I was really kind of struck by because of the subject matter of a lot of what he was showing us. Did you get that idea too?
Absolutely. But I was also struck by the fact that he was talking to us from his book. You know, he's thought a lot about what he wrote for this book. But I've been to his building in Denver, for example, the Denver Art Museum, and some of his ideas, they're conceptually so engaging, and then you have to figure out if they work from a physical standpoint when you're walking through an art museum and you're looking at art as well as purely experiencing a space.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those, those lists like, you might be a redneck.
Yeah.
I think there's some lists that go, you might be an architect if you go into an art museum and you're looking at the structure more than the art.
Yeah, that's a giveaway.
Yeah, absolutely. When I go into houses now, I find myself doing that. I'm not an architect, but I've got enough of it in my brain. I think something has metastasized over here and had me change just the way I'm seeing these buildings. And also, you're looking at the whole idea of experiences when you come in. Like, how is someone experiencing the entrance of a building, and how easily do they know where to go? Where is everything convenient or not? It does change the way you look at things.
Well, yes, it was a talk yesterday also by Brad Dunning, which was really interesting because it did not start with architecture at all. It started with the culture, actually the culture of Germany, and then the culture of Palm Springs, and early hippie movements, and people who wanted to live free and not have material encumbrances, and they were nudists, and they were vegans, and all of that sort of stuff. Which seemed kind of on the edge of culture, but it actually, that culture has influenced the radical character of architecture here in Palm Springs, and kind of prepared the way for things like Neutra's Miller House, which was originally a studio for a set of exercises, which Grace Miller had, which I can't quite describe, but they were for a healthy life and healthy body and all of that. So it isn't just that the Miller House is a beautiful little piece of architecture. It's that it has all this rich background that inspired it to look like it does.
The Lovell Health House in Los Angeles, same kind of thing. I mean, a number of these houses were really part of expressions of a movement coming forward.
Yeah.
And now we're hearing the stories, and we're in a culture that's also changing very rapidly. And it's nice for me, to take a break from like the news cycle and come here for a couple of weeks and kind of settle into this, because, at home, I don't have the same routine. Like at home, I don't get up in the morning and someone's made me a frittata. That doesn't happen every day. And then at noontime, I'm not walking like downtown to see some beautiful architecture generally, although occasionally that will happen. And then at 4:30, roughly, no one's putting a martini in my hand. So you get used to that cycle, and by the time I have to go get on the plane, by the end of it, I'm really, it's the tears are flowing out of my face.
Yes.
I know you guys must experience that too sometimes.
Well, I hate to tell you this, but I don't have a martini every day at 4:30.
Oh.
And you actually live in Palm Springs?
I live in Palm Springs. I do not.
I'm surprised.
No, I'm at my office still at, 5 o'clock, right?
Well, I'm at my office too, but no one's still bringing me the martini. As you guys look forward over the next couple of years, where does Modernism Week go? Does it try to be a super huge thing like, Coachella and seize the whole valley? Does it try to specialize? Does it try to franchise? What do you think for the organization? What are some of the possibilities?
Well, there are tremendous possibilities, and I do not speak for the board, but I know that we are thinking about the future very definitely. And the mission statement of the Palm Springs Modernism Week organization does not limit itself to Palm Springs.
Right.
It is for the promotion of documentation, awareness of modernism, and its preservation. So that can apply to any place. For example, this year, I live in Orange County, California, and we have a preservation group called Preserve Orange County, and Modernism Week invited us to have a presentation and a fundraiser. So they are, here in Palm Springs, are supporting our little group, fairly young, out in Orange County, which, it's like having a really good big sister,
that's the
to
same
help
with us.
and encourage you. Yeah.
It's the same with us. Modernism Week has been supporting our benefits out here.
Yeah. So there are ways that Modernism Week, with its brand name, it is now known internationally in favor of modernism, and its expertise as well, wants to and can help other groups, nationally and hopefully internationally as well.
Well, it's really amazing. And thank both of you for coming back by and saying hello. It's always fun to see you both. I'm sure I'll see you more around this week. And Alan, I see almost whenever I turn on my laptop and start previewing films. Where can people see the Fray 2 film? Do you know when that's going to be distributed or available?
I think they premiered the director's cut.
That's
and
right.
so I'm not sure that it's ready for distribution yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I know it will be available eventually at film festivals and with architectural elements. I know that there was somebody from the New York area that was very interested in having it there. So it will be out and available.
It will be in our architecture film series probably in December.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you guys, and we hope that all your fans out there keep listening to your shows here on U.S. Modernist Radio.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That was George Smart with Alan Hess and Janice Lyle. Thanks for listening. Want to hang out with us at the swanky U.S. Modernist compound at Modernism Week next year, February 2021? Email george@usmodernist.org. U.S. Modernist Radio is underwritten by Nichiha.com/US Modernist and by Angela Rowe, your special agent for Modernist Houses, 919-995-0550. All right, take us out, George.
Visit usmodernist.org's massive archives to listen to past shows, discover documentation of 7,500 significant modernist houses across America, and access 3 million pages of classic 20th century architecture magazines. U.S. Modernist Radio is produced by Soundtracks Recording Studio in Raleigh, North Carolina. Our theme song was recorded by me and Robinson Earl. Carrie Cesarino researches guests while juggling 2 children, a bowling ball, and a flamethrower, while doing the lambada with husband Adam. U.S. Modernist Radio is a production of Modernist Archive, a nonprofit educational archive for the documentation, preservation, and promotion of modernist residential design. I'm George Smart, and we'll be back soon with our last show of the Modernism Week season, featuring closing guests Gabrielle Esperti and Takashi Yanai.